If you're moving from New York City and your budget is around $1 million, there's a moment almost everyone has. You open Zillow, you zoom into Fairfield County, you start scrolling. At first, it's exciting. You're imagining space, you're imagining quiet, you're imagining a backyard, maybe a driveway, maybe even a garage. You start picturing mornings that feel slower, weekends that feel fuller, and a daily rhythm that isn't so compressed by noise, crowds, and constant movement. You picture coffee outside, you picture kids running around, you picture not hearing your neighbors through the walls. Then something shifts. You slow down, you scroll back up, you click into a listing again, maybe even the same one you just looked at. And you think, wait, why does this house feel smaller than I expected? Why does this one look great, but it's farther than I planned? Why is this neighborhood exactly what I want, but the kitchen feels like it belongs to a different decade? That moment catches people off guard. There's often a split second where buyers wonder if they're doing something wrong, if they misunderstood the market, if they're being unrealistic, or if this move they've been building up to in their head isn't going to work out the way they had hoped for. Sometimes that thought is loud, sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it just shows up as a tight feeling in your chest when you're scrolling. And I want to say this clearly right away. There is nothing wrong with you if you feel that way. This is a reaction that's incredibly common for New York City buyers seeing Fairfield County homes for the first time. This video is not about lowering expectations, it's about resetting them so the process actually feels good instead of confusing or frustrating or quietly disappointing. Because $1 million absolutely buys a great life in Fairfield County. It just buys different versions of great, depending on the town, the neighborhood, and what you personally care about most. The biggest shift New York City buyers have to make is understanding how value works here compared to the city. In New York City, price is mostly about location and access. You already expect smaller spaces. You accept older buildings. You accept quirks. You accept trade-offs. You know that square footage is sacrificed for walkability, restaurants, convenience, culture, and proximity to everything. You don't expect perfections, you expect the energy. In Fairfield County, buyers subconsciously expect something else. They expect space, privacy, charm, modern finishes, walkability, convenience, and a manageable commute, all wrapped into one clean, obvious package. And when that doesn't immediately show up on screen, confusion creeps in. That confusion often sounds like, shouldn't this feel more impressive? Or why does this feel way harder than I thought? Here, your $1 million is constantly being divided. It's being split between town reputation, neighborhood feel, commute time, lot size, interior condition, privacy, walkability, school systems, and long-term stability. You're not buying the best version of everything at once. You're choosing what matters most to you. Once that clicks, the stress level drops quickly. The search stops feeling like something is wrong, starts feeling like a series of intentional decisions instead of constant second guessing. One of the first surprises for New York City buyers is condition. There's often an assumption that $1 million, everything should feel finished, that the house should feel clean, modern, updated, and emotionally easy the second you walk in. In Fairfield County, that's not always how it works. Many homes were built earlier. Many owners renovated in phases. Many houses are structurally solid, thoughtfully cared for, and simply waiting for their next chapter. You might see hardwood floors that have been there for decades, kitchens that function perfectly but don't feel current, or layouts that reflect a different era of living where rooms were more defined. That doesn't mean bad value, it means value is distributed differently. Once buyers understand that the search becomes less emotional and much more intentional, instead of asking why isn't this perfect, they start asking, does this fit the life we actually want to live here? Now let's talk about how this actually plays out in different towns, because this is where expectations really start to recalibrate in a meaningful way. Let's start with Greenwich. In Greenwich, $1 million is usually buying entry-level access. You might see a smaller home near the train, you might see a house on a busier road, you might see something with great bones that hasn't been fully updated yet. A lot of buyers walk into these homes and think, this is nice, but I expected more house. What they're reacting to isn't the house itself, it's the mismatch between price and visual payoff. In Greenwich, the value isn't always immediately obvious when you walk through the front door. What you're really buying here is one of the strongest school systems in the region. long-term desirability, proximity to New York City, and a town with deep market resilience. You're buying into a place that people consistently want to live in, regardless of market cycles or economic shifts. These are not instant wow purchases. They are long game purchases. Buyers who understand that tend to feel more comfortable quickly. Buyers who don't often feel like they're compromising even when they're not. Darien creates a similar but slightly different emotional response. In Darien, buyers often fall in love with the town immediately. The schools, the sense of community, the way everything feels connected and intentionally small. Then they look at the house itself and realize the square footage is tighter than expected, or the layout feels more compact than what they had pictured. There's usually an internal conversation that starts here and lingers longer than people expect. Do we need more space right now, or do we want to be in this environment long term? Can we live with this layout if everything else around us feels right? Darien rewards buyers who value consistency, stability, and community over instant visual wow. It's less about the house making a statement and more about the town quietly supporting daily life in a way that feels grounded and dependable. Then there's Westport, where emotions really start to get involved. In Westport, you'll pull onto a quiet tree-lined street, you see kids riding bikes, you notice how the house sits just back enough from the road. You feel the neighborhood energy immediately, even if you can't quite articulate why. It feels like the place you pictured when you said you wanted to move to the suburbs. Then you walk inside, and that's often where reality sets in. The kitchen works, but it's dated. The layout is functional but not open. Primary bedroom isn't massive. There's charm, but also compromise. This is where buyers have to ask themselves an honest question. Do I want lifestyle now or finishes now? Westport often delivers lifestyle first. Buyers who do well here are comfortable updating over time and prioritizing community, culture, schools, and long-term value over immediate perfection. Buyers who struggle are usually trying to make the house do all the emotional work instead of letting the town and lifestyle carry some of that weight. New Canaan offers a different version of that same trade-off. In New Canaan, homes often feel elegant and classic. They're thoughtfully designed, but not always modern. You might love the way the house sits on the lot, the proportions, the symmetry, the feel, but realize the interior doesn't scream new. The inner dialogue here is usually quieter, but just as real. Do we want something timeless or something trendy? Are we okay with a house that feels refined instead of current? Buyers who thrive here tend to appreciate architecture, town identity, and a sense of permanence. If you need everything to feel brand new, New Canaan can feel frustrating. If you value character and stability, it can feel deeply right. Fairfield is often where New York City buyers feel the most grounded. In Fairfield, $1 million might buy a solid single-family home, a yard that actually gets used, and access to beaches, downtown, and multiple train stations. This is where decisions become more nuanced instead of dramatic. Do you want to be closer to Fairfield Beach and lean into a coastal rhythm, or closer to downtown shops and restaurants? Do you want a move-in ready home farther out, or a walkable location that needs cosmetic updates? Fairfield tends to reward buyers who want balance. It may not feel flashy, but it often feels livable very quickly. Buyers often say this is the first place that feels like real life instead of a hypothetical version of it. Norwalk introduces variety and contrast. Now in Norwalk, buyers might choose between coastal areas like Rowayton, where charm and water access come with tighter layouts, or island neighborhoods where space and quiet take priority. Norwalk can feel dynamic. Different neighborhoods feel very different from one another. That can be exciting for buyers who like options, or overwhelming for buyers who want predictability. The key here is understanding what kind of daily rhythm you want to live inside of. Stamford adds another layer to the conversation. In Stamford, buyers often decide between downtown living with newer construction and walkability, or North Stamford, where privacy, land, quiet dominate. Stamford tends to attract buyers who still want energy, restaurants, and activity, just with more breathing room than New York City. The trade-off is density versus space, and the buyers who understand that up front usually feel much more settled in their decision-making. Wilton shifts the emotional tone again. In Wilton, $1 million often buys more square footage, larger lots, and noticeably slower rhythm. This is where buyers often stop talking about houses and start talking about mornings, evenings, and weekends. The trade-off is distance. Errands take planning. Commutes are longer. walkability is limited. But for buyers who value calm over convenience, Wilton can feel like a deep exhale. Ridgefield offers a similar sense of space with a slightly different personality. In Ridgefield, buyers get nature, community, and charming town center. Life feels intentional and slower. People who choose Ridgefield usually know exactly what they want and are comfortable trading spontaneity for space. Across all these towns, one pattern shows up again and again. Almost every Fairfield County purchase comes down to three things: location, condition, and space. Most buyers get two. If you want prime location and turnkey condition, space shrinks. If you want location and space, conditions take a hit. If you want space and condition, location moves outward. This is not a flaw in the market, it's how the market works here. The frustration comes from trying to beat that reality instead of choosing within it. Quick pause here. If this breakdown is helpful, this channel exists for exactly this reason. I make videos to help New York City buyers understand Fairfield County before they start touring homes, so expectations match reality and decisions feel confident instead of overwhelming. If you're even considering a move, you're in the right place. Now, there's also an emotional side to this process that doesn't get talked about enough. One reaction I hear all the time is, "This feels older than I thought." Many Fairfield County homes were built earlier than buyers expect, and that doesn't mean outdated living, it just means different eras and different priorities. Once buyers stop comparing homes to Manhattan condos and start comparing lifestyles, that reaction tends to fade. Another common reaction is, "This doesn't feel like $1 million house." In Fairfield County, $1 million is often buying land, schools, community, stability, and lifestyle, not visual shock value. Once buyers understand what they're actually purchasing, frustration softens. Then there's the moment that usually happens a few tours in. Buyers walk into a house and think, "Wait, I actually love this." They notice the quiet street, the light, the pace, the way the house feels when nothing is rushing you. That's when logic and emotion finally align. Where buyers struggle most is touring without clarity. One house has a location you love but needs work. Another is beautiful but farther than expected. Another feels right but doesn't check every box. Without clear priorities, every showing feels confusing. The issue usually isn't the houses, it's the lack of a clear filter. So before you ever step into a home, ask yourselves a few honest questions. Do we value space or walkability more? Are we open to updates or do we need turnkey? How much does commute time actually affect our week? Are we buying for 5 years or 15? What lifestyle are we actually chasing? Write those answers down, because once you're inside a house, emotion takes over fast. Clarity up front creates confidence later. If you're new here, I'm Chris Giolito. I help New York City buyers make a smart, realistic moves here to Fairfield County by breaking down towns, neighborhoods, and trade-offs so there are no surprises when you start touring homes. If you're early in the process and just trying to understand where you fit, keep watching these videos. They're designed to save you time, stress, and a lot of second guessing. And when you're ready to take the next step, you'll already know what exactly matters to you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.